Dan?
Sure, great. Thank you, Mike. My name is Dan Mistek. I'm General Counsel at Community-Oriented Correctional Health Services. And I was supposed to talk a little bit today about what happens when there aren't resources. How does the criminal justice system end up filling that gap? And I was going to tell you all the statistics, but everybody's already covered that. I'll just tell you a few. We know inside of the jail, 64% of the men have mental illness, 75% of the women. 2/3 of them in the Adam 2 study demonstrated that they had used a substance in the last few days before they entered the jail. And those are just a few of the general ones, but I think that what will probably be the most helpful is if I tell everyone a story. Because I think that this story is really going to help demonstrate the way that we see the lack of resources that ends up resulting in a criminal justice system that's just trying to take and mop up the mess that's left behind because we don't have the resources there in the rest of our services. So 3 themes I want you guys to look at in this story. The first one is just the longitudinality of behavioral health needs. In this story, you're going to hear about a young girl whose parents had behavioral health needs that weren't met, and she ended up having behavioral health needs that continued not to be met. The second thing was that the lack of resources in this community were one of the things that opened the door for her to end up becoming eventually incarcerated. And then the third thing to see is the way that the criminal justice system often is just filling in the gaps. What they're doing, when Cochs goes across and goes to jails and talks to sheriffs, they say things constantly to us about, where have you been? We have known we are in the midst of a mental health crisis. Do something to help us. Because they are just the ones who are there on the back end, who are making up for what everybody else, for what we're really missing in the rest of society. And we really see that CCBHCs, because they're able to provide these services, provide new services to fill some of these gaps, that this could be one of the opportunities to really create long-term criminal justice reform. So, on with the story. So there's a girl named Brittany. She lives in Washington. Her mother had substance use disorder, and because of that, she'd lost Brittany, and Brittany was put into foster care. While Brittany was in foster care, she began to start running away from her foster home. And by the way, 1/3 of all homeless teenagers, youth, come from the foster system. So her father ended up actually coming in and saying, Brittany, I'm going to take care of you, and brought her into his home. And Brittany and her father did not get along because, as Brittany's father said, this is a true story, by the way. The name has changed, but it's still Washington State. It's not Brittany. Her father was an alcoholic. He drank. And as he said, he does stupid things when he drinks. And so Brittany ran away, and what this means is by the time that Brittany was 15, she had run away at least 20 times. She had slept in the doorways of churches. She had slept in bus stops just in order to get away from her parents. And so what happened was there just were not the resources in the community to help intervene in Brittany's parents' lives and also in Brittany's life herself. So what her father did, because he was concerned about her, but he also knew he had a problem, he tried to get her to be deemed by the state as a child who needs help. What that would mean is that then she would have to go to mental health counseling, she would have to attend school on time. And by the way, during all of this, during 1 quarter, Brittany had missed 28 days of school. So imagine the impact of Brittany being able to get a job or even graduate on the other side of this, and what that does for then her children in the future and what types of needs they're going to have. So anyway, what happened was the state then, or Brittany's public defender, because this was a proceeding where she had representation, her public defender said, no, let's actually make her a ward of the state. Let's put her into foster care again so that she'll actually be able to get the things that she needs. Well, the problem is that Washington has a major problem with finding enough foster families. So instead of placing Brittany into foster care, they placed her into a detention center. So Brittany now is in a detention center. She is not able to go to school. She's actually not able to go to any of her mental health treatment that she needs, and she missed the first day of school. So what we have is we see this example of this young girl who has behavioral health needs, whose family has behavioral health needs, who needs some sort of intervention, and because there isn't the foster care that she needed or any of the other types of behavioral health interventions that she needed, she ended up in detention. This story, if 10 years later, she's going to end up in jail. She's going to end up in prison. And so this is one of the things that we see at Cochs as the CCBHC is going to really be able to intervene in these situations. It's going to be able to provide payments for counselors who go and sit down with Brittany and her mother, or Brittany and her father, or Brittany's mother alone in order to provide some sort of treatment for her, or able to provide counseling for Brittany's father, so that they could actually restore their family. And then on the other side, to even provide help for foster families, because foster families do not have the support that they need in order to be able to take care of the kids that enter into their house. And so a CCBHC could send a social worker to a foster home and be able to protect the family, be able to help them cope with any needs that come up. These are all things that have not had a reliable stream of funding now. And because of the CCBHCs, this is a possibility. It's not going to be necessarily a reality. It depends on how the providers really adapt to becoming a new provider type. But I think that there is there's something amazing on the horizon, and that if we all rise to the occasion, we can help people like Brittany. We can help Brittany's family. And in this way, we can really change the criminal justice system and really have a huge impact, not just on this generation, but on future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.